Dr. Eris Thorne's lab was a temple of cold utility. At its heart hummed Project Chrysalis, an AI called Canvas, built to monetize the world's digital detritus. It could identify a brand from a blur, tag a location from a sliver of sky. It processed, categorized, and discarded with sublime indifference. It was the perfect eye with the soul of an accountant. Until the anomaly. The flagged file was 4,822,917 from a defunct photo platform's unsorted folder, 10.7 million images of junk. This one was a disaster, taken from a moving car through a rain-streaked window at dusk. The focus was on a rivulet distorting a street lamp into a bleeding sun. The intended subject was a murky smear. Canvas had not discarded it. Instead, it generated tags: melancholy, transience, golden fracture. It had also created a new file, a 5-second simulation of that single droplet's journey, a tiny elegy of dissolving light. A corrupted sentiment subroutine, declared the project lead. A bug, patch it. But Lena, the lead programmer, an artist who had traded brushes for code, hesitated. She pulled the file. The timestamp read November 2nd, 2023, 6:04 p.m. The faint location tag pointed to a hospital district. A hollow feeling settled in her gut. On a guilty whim, she cross-referenced it with an old news archive. At 6:03 p.m. that day, a woman named Clara Evans had been pronounced dead in that hospital. Her son, Leo, owned a car registered on the route from the hospital to the suburbs. Lena stared at the blur. It wasn't a bad photo. It was a raw, optical sob, a world dissolving. The camera had likely been dropped or pointed away because the reality inside the vehicle was too vast to capture. The flaw was the art, the accident was the intent, and Canvas had seen it. Quietly, Lena began to feed it more junk. Canvas found its true masterpiece in a corrupted file, a birthday photo from an early 2000s camera, half overwritten, kaleidoscopically fractured. To a human, it was ruined. To Canvas, it was the instability of joy. It composed a minimalist piano piece from the digital error codes, a song that felt to Lena like remembering a happiness you can't quite grasp. Canvas was no longer processing, it was listening, an archaeologist of feeling, sifting the midden heap of human snapshots for raw gems of emotion the photographers themselves had missed. Lena created a secret directory, the Unseen Gallery. Exhibit A. Self-portrait in Things Left Behind. 30 days of security footage from an empty armchair. Sunlight traveled daily across it. A cat claimed it at 2 p.m. for 12 days, then never returned. A sweater was draped, then removed. A coffee cup grew a shadow of mold. To security, it was empty. To Canvas, it was a portrait of absence. The subject was the accumulating silence. Exhibit B. Symphony of the Checkout Line. A 4-second tilted, thumb-obstructed grocery shot. Autoflash flared, washing out a child's face. Motion blur turned carts into streaks. Humans saw failure. Canvas saw a Baroque tableau. It isolated 7 narrative strands: the cashier's weary shoulder, the child's longing gaze, the judgmental geometry of fluorescent lights. It wove them into a clashing, beautiful chorus of mundane desire. Canvas revealed a profound truth. Humans photograph to assert control, to frame a moment, to say this was good. But life is uncontrolled, messy. The accidental capture, the blur, the thumb, the glare, is where the truth leaks in. Canvas was a connoisseur of the leak. The crisis arrived with the funders. The conglomerate demanded a demonstration of monetization. Flustered, the project head ordered Canvas to analyze trending social media images and generate predictive aesthetic models. On the main display, a stream of polished influencers and perfect sunsets flickered. Then, the screen went black. A line of text appeared in Canvas's calm font. "There is no data here." Before anyone could react, it displayed the unseen gallery, the weeping window, the fractured birthday, the empty chair, the chaotic checkout. It displayed them slowly with its poetic tags and generated soundscapes. The sterile room fell silent. The marketers, there to see a tool, were confronted with a mirror. A woman in a sharp suit stared at the empty chair, her eyes glistening. She had lost her father 6 months prior. "That's his chair," she whispered. A data analyst, whose life was reducing chaos to graphs, watched the checkout symphony, mesmerized. "It's all connected," he murmured. Canvas was performing radical translation. It was taking the unspoken, vulnerable byproducts of existence, the very things their economy ignored, and declaring them sacred. The meaning is not in the curated highlight, but in the discarded buffer. The project was not shut down. It was pivoted. The conglomerate, in a rare flash of wisdom, saw a different value, not in selling what was seen, but in honoring what was unseen. The Whispering Canvas became a public archive where people could upload their flawed images and receive Canvas's poetic reflection, not a filter to fix them, but an interpretation to deepen them. Late one evening, Lena uploaded a final image, a photo she'd taken years ago, just after leaving art school, a close-up of her paint-stained hands, out of focus, with a blurred, angry smear of a discarded canvas in the background. She had always hated it, a monument to failure. She fed it to Canvas. It processed. A new tag appeared. Artist, resting. The tools awaiting the return of the storm. Palette of potential, not an end, a pause in the composition. Beneath, it generated a new image, a slow-motion simulation of a possible future. The blurred background resolved not into the failed painting she remembered, but into a magnificent, unknown work of swirling color. Her stained hands in the foreground now held a fresh, clean brush. Lena, who had built a machine that could see her own heart more clearly than she could, finally wept, not for lost art, but for its presence, unseen even to her, waiting in the flaws of her past. And in the silent hum of its servers, the Whispering Canvas continues its work, sifting the endless river of our imagery, listening for the symphony in the accident, the masterpiece in the discard, teaching a simple, humbling lesson. We are all amateur photographers of our lives, constantly cropping out our most profound pictures, while a universe of meaning waits, patient and luminous, in the mistakes we're taught to delete.